We have got to stop recording in 44.1. Today, I'm gonna explain why. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cole Caparoon. Thank you for stopping by for another video. I'm a producer, mix engineer, mastering engineer, session guitarist here in Nashville, Tennessee. I've charted top 40 on Billboard. I've had #1s on a whole bunch of different charts, FM and online charts. And I work on somewhere between 150 and 200 songs a year and have for many, many years now. Now, I only say all that because this is coming from a place of actual experience. This is not just an opinion. Well, it is an opinion, but it's not just an opinion that I've formed. This is based on like cold, hard data, and today I want to share it with you. So before we talk about why you shouldn't use 44.1 and what resolution you probably should use, what actually is resolution? Let's make sure that we actually understand this. Now, since we're recording into a computer and there's no analog signal that happens and lives inside a computer, that means that every piece of audio in a computer has to be converted from an analog signal to a digital signal. Now, how this conversion takes place decides on what it sounds like and its resolution. So if you take a waveform of any instrument and you put it across a timeline and a volume amplitude scale, this is what that would look like. Now, on the volume or amplitude side of things, this is where your bit rate comes in. So 16-bit, which is what CDs have always been, it's what most released music is in, has less overall headroom in the volume or amplitude department than 24-bit. Now, there is also a 32-bit float, and just for this example, just know that 32-bit is higher than 24-bit, of course. What a stupid thing to say. Of course it's higher than 24-bit, Colt. What are we talking about here? Now, if you look along the time domain, this is where your sample rate comes in. So the computer or your converters is actually taking a snapshot of this waveform every so often, and your sample rate determines how often that snapshot is taken. And so 44.1 actually stands for 44,100 snapshots per second. The next sample rate further up that is very common is 48K, which is 48,000 snapshots per second. Next is 88.2, next is 96, 96 is 96,000 snapshots per second, and so on and so forth. Now we're gonna get into my opinion on the highest sample rates later, because I do actually have kind of a hot take on this. And real quick, I just want to remind you guys that I'm running a giveaway for a pair of active Auratone 5Cs. Love these monitors, been using them for many, many years. I'm really pumped to be able to give away a pair of one of you. There's details in the description below on the giveaway and how to enter. Do not send anyone any money. Do not reply to any comments saying that you have won. The details on how you'll be notified on if you've won are below. So go check that out, and best of luck on the giveaway. Now, after this many years and worked on this many songs, as I have thousands and thousands of songs, I'm still shocked by how often I get something to mix from other producers or how often I get something to master from other mix engineers, and the file is a 16-bit 44.1K file, or even a 24-bit 44.1K file. Now, this is the standard default resolution in a lot of DAWs that you may be working on. But let's start with the bit rate. Everyone should be working in 24-bit or 32-bit float. Across the board, there's literally no reason to work in 16-bit. You're just giving up headroom, you're giving up resolution in the volume or amplitude department. There's no reason for it. All computers are fast enough, storage is big enough. There's no reason to do anything at 16-bit ever anymore. Now, the sample rate, the 44.1K, is where things start to get a little bit interesting. Now, 16-bit 44.1 is what CDs always were. This is the resolution when you bought a CD. This is the resolution that was on a CD. And so forever, this was the deliverable when you're mastering a song. This is the resolution you would always deliver at, because it's the resolution that went on CDs. Now, when streaming took over, pretty much all streaming platforms were also 16-bit 44.1K was the deliverable. It's what you delivered the master in to the streaming platform or to your distributor. And so for a long time, I think people just got used to working in this resolution, because why record at a higher resolution and use up more CPU power from your computer when mixing, and why use up more storage space on your hard drives when it's going to be reduced back down to this anyway? And I didn't really have an argument against this back in the day. But then as DVDs became much much more popular, the file format for DVDs is 24-bit 48K. If you ever watched a music video on DVD, if you ever watched any live concert on DVD, that audio is all 24-bit 48K. And so if you were doing any sort of work that was ever gonna live on TV or on film, on a DVD or anything like that, you wanted to record at 24-bit 48K. You wanted to mix at 24-bit 48K, and you wanted to master at 24-bit 48K, because you never wanted to do that at 16-bit 44.1 and then upsample to 2448. Why do that? Just do everything at the higher rates and then downsample for your CD release and for your streaming release. So this is when I first switched over to 2448. I always did 24, but 24-bit 44.1 is what I did for a long time. And as soon as I started working on stuff that was going on DVD eventually for music videos, then I immediately switched to 2448, and that's where I stayed for a very, very long time. Fast forward to today, and now about 50% of my clients are requesting 24-bit 48K files, masters, for release, because if it's going on Tidal, if it's lossless on Apple, if it's there's a whole bunch of different platforms that now support this higher bit rate and higher sample rate, and you want to take advantage of that. You want to give them the highest quality, the best sounding file you possibly can. And so now we're in a situation where you really, really should be recording, mixing, and mastering at 24-bit 48K as a minimum. There's no advantage to working any less than this. Computers are more than powerful enough, hard drive space is more than cheap enough. Just do everything at a minimum of 24-bit 48K. You're future-proofing yourself, you're giving your clients a better file. This is why you should never work at 44.1 ever again. There's no reason to. But what about the higher sample rates? Why wouldn't you just record at 32-bit float 96K? Here's where I have kind of a hot take. Before we get into what sample rate I use and what sample rate I think you guys should use, there's links in the description below for every piece of gear that I use. So if you're curious about anything that I use, or if you ever need any piece of musical gear, hit the links in the description of my video. After hitting any one of those links, purchase anything you might ever need. Those links go to Sweetwater. Sweetwater is sponsoring this video, and I very much appreciate it. Been getting all my gear from them for a very, very long time. Now, I've done a whole bunch of experiments between the different sample rates. What's incredibly difficult is that it's really, really hard to do real scientific experiments with this, because you would need to record a single song, one song, the same song, with the exact same tones and with the exact same performances in both sample rates the entire way through the project. And this is a bigger undertaking than I've ever been able to pull off, or than I've been willing to pull off for myself. But what I have done is I have tracked drums in both sample rates from the same drummer from the same session, and the same microphones, the same everything. So we did one in 48K and we did one in 96K. And I purposely did this to try to hear the difference. And here's what I came up with. For any sort of more aggressive style music, anything harder hitting, edgier, with more attitude, I actually like 48K better than 96K. 96K to me sounds a little clinical and a little sterile. It's a little boring, it's a little blah. Now, we are really splitting hairs here. This is not like a song is gonna be successful at 48 and not successful at 96. We are really splitting hairs here. But most of the stuff that I work on is more aggressive, more impactful, edgier kind of music. Pop and rock and metal and pop country and rock country is most of what I work on. And all of those things are denser, more powerful, aggressive style productions. And I actually think that 48K is a little bit more aggressive sounding. It has a little bit more edge, a little bit more hair. 96K is a little bit more clinical sounding. So what I personally do is, if I'm doing any sort of full production stuff, it's at 24-bit 48K, sometimes it's at 32-bit, but at least 48K. And if I'm doing any orchestral stuff, if I'm actually recording a symphony, or if I'm doing string quartets, or if I'm doing like just a piano vocal thing or something like that, oftentimes with those sort of sparse, more pristine productions, I will use 96K for that stuff because I think it suits it better, especially for orchestral stuff and especially for like bluegrass and stuff like that. I actually like 48K better than 96, and I've done the experiments to work through it. Don't forget to hit the links down in the description if you ever need any music gear. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.